Guys, it is such a blessing to have Laura Wifler with us today. If you do not know who the amazing Laura Wifler is, let me tell you. She's the co-founder of Risen Motherhood, the executive director and co-host of the podcast with the same name. Look it up, guys. And the co-author of Risen Motherhood, Gospel Hope for Everyday Moments. Guys, she also wrote the book to the Cross I Cling, an ebook reflecting on mothering a child with a disability. You know, that has my heart. And then she also wrote a brilliant children's book that I have and we love, called Like Me, a story about disability and discovering God's image in every person. Amen. Laura, her husband, and her 3 children live in Central Iowa. You can find her on Instagram at Laura Wifler or at laurawifler.com. Laura, thank you for being here today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. It is a true honor.
Oh, I'm just so blessed that you've come, and I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you. I would love to jump in, and of course, you know, I've got to ask out of the gate about your little one with disabilities. I know that has rocked your world, and in the hardest and the best ways, no doubt. I dipped my toe into this pool at age 26, and for the last 15 years have done a deep dive into the world of disability, and it just has my heart in such a just intense and unique way. The Lord wired me. I mean, I did not know this growing up, but wired me my whole life to be about the disability community. I just did not know that as I was growing. And I'm just honored every time I get to meet a mother or father who is living the story of disability with a child. I obviously do not have that story. I am the one with disabilities, but I can say with assurance, having met thousands of typical siblings and typical parents, that they are the best people on earth because they have such a different level of all the things, just kindness, compassion, true, real, gospel-centered empathy, a character and wisdom that is way beyond a child's age. So your other children, the typical ones, are probably some of the most amazing people on the planet.
Yep.
And that directly is correlated to their interaction with your child with disabilities.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you bet. Yeah. I have noticed so much growth in my own children. I have 2 older kiddos. My youngest is 6, who has a rare genetic disease that causes global developmental delays for her. But with the 2 older kids, you know, it's certainly hard. There are some not easy moments, but I have been so thankful to just watch things that, like, I'm still learning at my age now at 37, that they are grasping in full of how to give up their life or lay down their life for their sister, or to respond in compassion and not anger, or to just be willing to make accommodations. And so I know they're going to be better off for it. And I would agree with you that meeting other people who have a sibling with disabilities, there is something, like, you can spot them from a mile away. If you're like, I bet they have a sibling.
You know, it is so crazy. I have 2 kids, and both of them have essentially in full. I mean, the older one was 6 months old when I had the stroke, but both of them has grown up with a mother with pretty significant disabilities. They've never seen me drive a car or, you know, do most things that a quote unquote normal mommy would do. And recently, my older one, who now goes by Jimmy, formerly known as James, my son, Jimmy has started sharing his experience publicly, like with other teenagers and things. And coming out of that, it's a very surreal, like, oh, I didn't know you were learning that lesson. He randomly talked to a group of teenagers at this conference I was speaking at, and he said, having a mom with disabilities has made me slow down and really see life. And I'm like, where did he get that? Where did he hear that? He did this a whole other message about stop saying I can't imagine and start
Mhm.
imagining, and don't look away when someone's suffering, but stay in it and imagine it. Don't say that. And I'm like, where did he get these
Yeah.
insights? They're
Yeah.
so beautiful and true. And you've never said that to me. So, nor did I know you were thinking, you sweet teenager without a formed frontal cortex. Um, so there's just good stuff marinating when someone in the family has disabilities. So
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And it just so correlates to a gospel life
Yeah.
of, I mean, on your recent podcast, when you talked about constraints of our lives, I was so struck because I talk about something very similar, that Jesus himself constrained
Yeah.
himself to earth,
Yes.
that nothing could be more relatable, that he put himself into a human body
Yeah.
that needs sleep and water and care, and he himself did it. We too are constrained, but maybe there's dignity in our constraints. And I thought that was so beautiful. I wonder if you would share just a little tidbit of that with our listeners, because that is just gold in all of our lives, whether there are disabilities in the story or not. We are all
Mhm.
constrained.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible to think about the life of Christ when you know the power and the mightiness of God, and you think about that being confined into a body that is just like ours. It wasn't this special built superhero body, but it was a broken body, a body that experienced pain, a body that got tired, a body that needed nourishment, a body that couldn't be everywhere at once. And I can't even begin to just comprehend how the God of the universe would subject himself to something like that, and what a change that would have been for Christ. Almost I'm not going to say that because probably it's a little bit thinking too deeply into it, but for our purposes today, I think that that is just a wild thought for us to have, and the fact that Jesus will remain in that body forever. That he said, these people, I love them so much, and I want them to know that I can have experienced all that they have, that I am with them in the trenches, that he would then say that I'm going to maintain this physical body and this form forever. And that is just mind blowing to me. It is a gift to know that Christ can relate to us in all of these things. And, we definitely experience so many pains and so many aches, and we have so many needs and so many limitations, all of us to different degrees. And yet also we know that one day there will be full healing. And that is
Right.
also exciting to know that Christ did not stay dead. His body is not dead. He is alive, and that is coming for us in redemption, or I'm sorry, in
Mm.
consummation, and that someday in heaven we'll be healed in our bodies. And so I think that that is just a huge hope. We have relatability now, and we have a future hope to look forward to.
That's right. I love that so much. That is honestly such a deep comfort to me in my body with very real disabilities, is that, yeah, one day every tear will be wiped away from my eyes and there will be no more sadness. And I really appreciate you and your fellow podcasting lady. I forgot her name, maybe Emily.
Yeah, good job.
Emily,
Yeah.
thanks. You and Emily, I'm pointing that out as mothers of children with disabilities, but as able bodied, typical women,
Yeah.
making that point, because every woman in the world, every man in the world too, feels like constrained.
Yeah.
We all have limits in our lives, whatever they look like. And it's so beautiful to think of, that's no different than Jesus himself. He
Yeah.
himself was constrained, and the limitations in our lives, in my deep dive on it, equal a flourishing that is uniquely because of the limitation, not in spite of them.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
when I see my wheelchair, excuse me, not as a limit on my life, but as an avenue to go where I want to
Mhm.
go and do what I want to do. The wheelchair actually is an enhancement to
Yeah.
my story, which is the power of the gospel, that
Mhm.
what was meant for tremendous evil is actually a beautiful avenue through which I flourish
Yeah.
and become the person the Lord has created me to be.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible to think about how when we rewrite the narrative of our story and we look at it with a gospel lens, just what a transition that is in our perspective. Because our immediate reaction, I remember when my daughter was diagnosed, I I will be honest and say that I felt so much pity. I felt pity for her. I felt
Mm,
pity for me. I felt just obviously like a right amount of grief and sadness, but I also felt this pittiness. And as I've matured and grown in my understanding of disabilities and just suffering altogether, realizing that pity is not the right response. Self pity is actually a sin, and what we can reframe that though, and begin to understand that no, what we can offer is compassion paired with dignity.
mm,
And I think when it's not to say we can't feel the feelings of the fall, we can't feel the
right.
pain and the grief and the sadness and honor those things and say those are real this side of Eden. But also we recognize that like you're saying that God has given you this story for this time. And so we can say that there is dignity in that and that we can honor the story that you're living out. And I think that as we start to reframe how we experience any type of suffering,
Yeah.
that can just so help our ability to endure and to persevere and to trust God's plan. But it takes like, it almost takes, for me, sometimes it took conversations with other people who were helping me see that. Actually, a friend gave me the language of compassion paired with dignity. That was, and so God has used all these people in my life to help me say, okay, I recognize this thinking isn't helpful. This isn't actually gospel thinking. And so how can I reframe that? And it has given me an enormous amount of hope to continue until the end here.
I absolutely love that. Compassion paired with dignity. Absolutely. That's it. That's what we are called to do in all of our stories is show compassion and be givers of deep dignity.
Mhm.
I'm very struck by that comment, thought, sentiment. I'm going to take that one
Yeah,
home because
seal it
that's
away.
it. That's beautiful. Listen, Laura, I wanted to ask you, you are this incredibly prolific podcaster, writer, nonprofit CEO. Is that right? You're all the thing, founder. And you have a team now of
8 women.
women that you
Mhm.
are managing.
Yeah.
And how do you do it all with your life, with a child with disabilities and other
Mhm.
typical children in your house? How do you manage all of the chaos of all of those things? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, of course, of course. Oh, goodness. Well, you know as well as anybody that none of us do it all, but I by the grace of God is my first answer is just moment by moment reliance on him. And it is there have been a lot of roles in my life and I'm so thankful for them and it is a very full life here. And I often say that a mom's schedule or a mom's life will change every 3 months. The moment you think you've found balance
Right.
or you've
Yes,
figured it
totally.
out, you got 3 months and then you better be ready to pivot. And I'll never forget this woman at a local church of mine. I was at a conference and when someone asked her, how do you balance it all? She stood up and she stood on one foot and she started kind of, like we all would, kind of moving and shifting her weight to be able to handle it. And then she switched feet and she was kind of moving her weight. And she was like, see that? See how I am always trying to find balance? And
Hmm.
it was so helpful. It's such a helpful picture for me that nobody ever actually has balance. We are
Right.
always kind of seeking that. And there's always a little bit of shifting. And so what I've been encouraged by from that, as I've thought on that example, was that I really just want to seek stewardship in my life. My goal is that whatever the Lord would hand me, that I would have open hands to receive. And I would say, Lord, whatever you have for me, I receive. Whatever you have today, whether that's a temper tantrum from my youngest daughter that is going to go on for 10, 20 minutes that I don't know how to get out of. Or if that's, meetings and getting to be with my team, or maybe it's traveling or different things like that. I want to leave room for the Holy Spirit to work in my day and for me to walk step by step with him as he leads, leave space for the Spirit to move, and to just ask God, Lord, how can I steward what you've given me? What does it look like to honor you with this? And it is that literally, practically, I know that always sounds vague for people, but it practically means, okay, Lord, what do you have for me today? And I trust you with it. And so I get through what I can. Look at my schedule, and then I continue on knowing that if I didn't get to everything, then that didn't need to get done today. And that God's going to
Right.
provide a way for that to happen.
Totally. I don't know if you went to college to get a degree on how to manage a team or be like a
Oh,
business corporation person.
no.
I definitely did not.
No.
So that's an interesting part of our career
Yeah.
journeys, and managing people and personalities can be a lot at times. A blessing, a huge blessing, but a lot. And you do it effortlessly. So, well, is your podcasting partner Emily also Risen Motherhood, the nonprofit side as well?
Yes. So Emily and I co-founded Risen
Okay.
Motherhood together, and she's actually my sister-in-law, which is so fun.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like you mentioned, we both have children with disabilities, which is they're completely unrelated things. So the doctors are like, lightning struck twice. And I was like, yep, the Lord just decided, that would be a big part of our ministry.
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful.
Isn't
Wow, I
that
did not
wild?
know your sister-in-laws. Actually, two of my precious sister-in-laws, Jay's two baby sisters, work for our team. They're on the Hope Hills team. And I just co-wrote a book with Jay's youngest sister, Alex Wolf. So I'm living life with my sister-in-laws as well. And it's really special.
So sweet. Do you have any sisters?
I do. I have two younger sisters, but neither work for the
Okay.
ministry. But I'm around a lot of ladies, and
That's so fun.
it's a deep blessing. There are a lot
Yeah.
of girls, even sisters who aren't necessarily blood,
Yeah.
that are doing life with us that we're
Yep.
very grateful for. Biology is not the
Oh,
only maker of sisterhood.
for
As you
sure. For
clearly
sure.
know. I
Yeah.
would love, Laura, for you to share about your children's book. It is so glorious, and we are so grateful to have it. But what prompted you to write it?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah. So, like me, I think the subtitle is A Story About Disabilities and Discovering God's Image in Every Person. And I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
subtitle really helps encapsulate the book. But ultimately, I wanted this book to be something that was a little bit different than what you often see out there in terms of Christian kids' books that kind of can feel more heavy handed with teaching. And there are already some great books out there about disabilities and teaching about the image of God. What I wanted was a book that really a family could snuggle up and read again and again, but could also really serve as a springboard for really important conversations about disabilities. And so it's written almost as a biography of my own life. I mean, I changed some of the genders. It's only two little boys in there and I have three children, but ultimately, like, everything, the day at therapy, they go sledding, they have cocoa, dad comes home and they read books. It's very much a day in the life of the Wifler household. And it's designed to help parents be able to talk about disabilities in a way that feels very natural. And my goal with this book was to teach about friendship. And I think that's because in our own neighborhood here, we have lots of kids around. And sometimes, not all the time, but some of the kiddos will feel maybe by one of my daughter's kind of behaviors feels unpredictable, or her
Mm-hmm.
responses don't feel typical. They'll kind of feel like, oh, that was different. And it often just takes a parent coming in and just saying, hey, she just wants to have fun. She just wants to play with you. And then usually kids are like, yep, rock on. Just a little explanation. Her mind thinks differently and they're ready to go. And when I did some research, I realized that friendship, no matter how different two people are, scientists say that friendship actually begins with a kernel of sameness. And so it's, hey, our moms told similar jokes. We like the same clothes. We listen to the same music. There is something for the two people that they find that they would say, there is sameness there, and now we can be friends. And there's all these other differences, but we found this one thing. And I was thinking about that from a Christian side of things and thinking, what is so cool is that we don't even need to find the same kind of music, because
Right.
there is a deep transcendent connection between all of us, every human being on the planet, because we're all made in the image of God. And therefore there is inherent sameness. And that just got me really excited about disabilities, because I felt like, look, friendship can be found without even trying, that we can become friends with one another. And it can help by showing, hey, they want to be included and have fun. They want to play games. They want s'mores. They want cocoa, just like you. And I think when kids see that, there's this beautiful opportunity for making friends. And it always reminds me of that C.S. Lewis quote where he says something like, wait, you too? I thought I was the only one. That's
Yeah.
the moment that
Yeah.
friendship begins. So that's my hope, is that parents, especially who maybe don't have kids that are exposed to other children with disabilities or other adults, that they would read this with their child early in life and start to have these really important conversations.
You're on to something so right. Is the children's book is so beautiful, like typical children reading and learning and seeing about the true image of God. changes their relationships as children, honestly, will affect their relationships all the way through the rest of their life, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's world changing stuff right there, Laura. I think you're onto something so important. My little one, my 8-year-old, how is all this landing and how is all he's seeing and thinking working out? And, who knows? TBD on what he's going to be like as an adult. I make no promises. However, we have a friend who has a child with cancer and was recently has had to use a wheelchair again. He has cancer in his leg. And John had him over for a play date. And, I'm thinking we're probably going to like hang out in the kitchen and mommies will really kind of manage what's happening. And Paul's in the wheelchair. And John like preset a table with Legos on the main floor of the house for them to have a Lego play,
Awesome.
and very much like catered to, okay, where should the wheelchair go so he can wheel right up to the table and we'll play Legos the whole time and won't think about any other activities. And I was just like, yes, like all it takes is a little thought, a little
Yeah.
consideration.
Yes.
And when you do it and see how easy it is to just think about somebody else,
Yes.
child, then it keeps happening. You feel like, oh, I can do this again. And it gets
Yeah.
easier and easier. And what I pray is that will last to adulthood. Is that
Absolutely.
then you are used to making accommodations,
Yes.
having deep, real curiosity, asking questions, not making assumptions, really choosing to be about the other and dignify them, just like you're talking about, Laura. I think that's so, so important and beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love to dive a bit more into your daughter's disability and what you are learning through that. I think the disabled community has so much to teach those of us who are not, and I'm actually in the disability community. So those people who are not in that community, but are in their family, for instance. I have a lot of listeners, Laura, who are the family members of a person living with disabilities. And what would you say she's taught you about how to live?
Oh my goodness. How long do we have? This is going to take a while.
I know, big question for sure. And there could be 10,000 answers.
Yeah.
Maybe just the top 3 that pop into your mind.
Yes. I mean, oh my goodness. Well, I think that the first thing with Eden, that's my youngest daughter's name.
Yes.
I have seen the Lord really sanctify me through her influence in my life, and it's in a myriad of ways. But I think for every person it's a little bit different, depending on perhaps your acute sin struggles that you might have had previously or still have, or your life circumstances and things. But I know that God has really worked out a lot of patience in me, where before I felt like I was a more impatient mom. My older 2 are typically developing, and they were very quick to do everything I asked. They were just quick to be obedient. And with my youngest, those same typical parenting tactics do not work. We are throwing out the rule book here. And so just learning what it looks like, I think, in moments where maybe people don't understand our family, or people don't understand why I'm making decisions that I do. And my daughter does look decently typically developing. She doesn't have any adaptive equipment anymore. And so I think a lot of people don't always know. And so we get comments and we get, oh, I can tell you how to parent that, or I can tell you what to do with that. And just learning. I know.
Thanks. Thank you for that.
I know. Never will I ever tell someone how to parent their child. Never.
All right. Let's
my words.
stop doing that. Like, you don't know. Stop offering your advice that's not helpful at all.
You just don't know someone's story, right? You just don't know. And I think that it has really just taught me, hey, okay, let me back up. I feel like I've started to say 4 things. We have a saying in our family that is, we say, my life for yours. And what that means is Christ gave his life for me. Now I can lay down my life for yours. And that saying, I brought it up to teach my children what it looked like to lay down their life for each other and for their younger sister and for me, or whoever they're around. But God has really used it in my life to say, because I'm a fast moving person. We were talking about all the things I'm involved in. I am highly productive. I value productivity. And
Yeah.
God has really taken Eden's story in my life and taught me to slow down and to say, my life for yours, over and over and over again. That I know that I can just put her needs first, or put the other kids' needs first. That has been such an important and valuable lesson for me, to rest, to slow down, because that's just not something that she's able to keep up with at this
Right.
time. And I've been really thankful, I think, for the Lord ingraining that into my life. Um, and then also just learning a lot about grief and having more compassion for others. Just like I said earlier, we don't know everyone's story. And I I think that disabilities have really taught me that you cannot know what is going on for someone, the hardships and the grief and the pain. And disability isn't my only grief. And what we see on the internet, like I always say, the internet doesn't get my grief. They don't I don't owe them that. And I think that that's been something that I've been reminded with other people's stories, that
Mm.
there's more going on than we ever see, and we can't be quick to judge about those things.
Right. Oh, I think you're so right. And grief is so explained away in our culture and not elevated to its proper place. It's almost as if we aren't deeply grieving in true lament, which is so biblical, we're seen as weak. And get over it. And you can do this. And I feel like I heard on your podcast something about like, we're not going to be the mom with the chickens. We're not raising
Oh yeah.
chickens. We'll eat the eggs, but we're not the mom with the chickens. And I so resonate. Like, we each have a lane, and you don't see the full picture, but we're not the mom with the chickens.
Mhm.
Was so resonatory to me, because I'm not the mom raising the chickens. And God bless the women who are,
Yep.
and they're
Yeah.
homeschooling their 8 children. And
Bet.
yeah, but no, I'm not wired to be that. So I'm not going to be that. And
Yeah.
I definitely see that with you. What's your Enneagram number? I have a guess.
Oh, do you want to guess first, or do you want me to go?
Well, I'm kind of torn. I'm a 3,
Okay.
and no, just tell me yours.
Okay, I'm a 1.
Okay, I could see that actually.
Yep, I
Yeah,
swing to 3 a lot, like, when I mean, I probably could be both, but I think with self-typing,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I think in our marriages and in our lives, it's great to identify who we are and who we aren't. And part of that is knowing, well, back to the chickens thing, actually. I think it was you who said, like, also, if you try to be the lady with the chickens and you're not, your husband's going to have a nervous breakdown if you're like, so we're raising chickens now. And he's like, but we're not those people. But you're trying to be that lady.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
stop. It's
it's
messing up
so
your
true.
marriage. I so resonate with that. I'll get on a big kick. We got to make our own bread or
Oh, I know.
whatever it is. And Dave's like, but we're not those people.
Yeah,
We don't.
I know. Well, it's so funny because we look to the right and the left, or we look online, and it
Right.
does look like this beautiful life that we want to provide,
For
and
sure. Yeah.
those are good, beautiful things. And yeah, I look at my own neighborhood here, and I think all my neighbors have gardens, big, beautiful vegetable gardens.
Yeah.
And I do not have anything resembling a vegetable garden, because I would never take care of it. And
Right.
I work full
Totally.
time, during the day, and all these things. And it's not a value for our family. And yet sometimes I'll look over there and think, oh, to be a good mom, I should really be providing homegrown vegetables for my kids. It's so funny how quick those thoughts come in, of like, in order to be good, I should be doing this. And then we feel guilt that's totally misplaced about who actually God made us. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
stewardship thing we were talking about. It's like, am I trying to steward somebody else's life, or am I
Right.
actually stewarding the life God gave me?
Right. I've heard it said before that the grass is always greener over there because somebody is watering it there. So, like, water your own grass and see what
true.
happens.
That is good. I haven't heard
Actually
that.
really works with the garden analogy.
It's so true. Somebody's taking care of that garden.
Well, exactly right. I love that thinking that you are assigned to your life,
Mhm.
not somebody else's. I talk about that a
Yeah.
lot, that what God has given to me, I want to steward well.
Yeah.
It could be something totally different for somebody else. And no shade, that's their journey, but that's not mine. Ultimately, I have loved, do you know who Sarah Groves is by
Oh
chance?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're from Iowa, of course. Woohoo! She's got a big following over there. I'm a huge, huge, just
Yeah.
rabid Sarah Groves fan, and she's informed my life. Well, I guess you said you're 37.
Yeah.
So I'm 41. So yeah, we hit
Cool.
that window where Sarah Groves
Yes.
was the soundtrack of our lives so
That's
far.
right.
And I've actually gotten to be friends with her, and she's like the coolest of
Oh,
the cool.
incredible.
And my senior year of college, I was asked to share the final convocation. It was very, very special. And my now husband, my fiance at the time, I did a message based on this song called "This Journey Is My Own." Do you know this song? It's this beautiful Sarah Groves song. It's
What's that?
obscure, called "This Journey Is My Own." That ultimately we seek man's advice and approval, but this journey is my own. And I
Mm,
think I felt such a comfort. That would have been when I was 22
wow.
and didn't even have the stroke till 26.
Yeah.
And yet, even then, I was marinating on this journey is uniquely mine. No one else is
Mm,
going to
mm,
live this story. So why am I looking for the approval of others? And it's from him only. And
mm.
I've been very struck by that thought literally my entire life.
Yeah.
And I hear you so beautifully sharing
Mm,
that. Laura,
yes.
it is a gift to have you on today. I would love to close this incredible conversation with you sharing what is good in your story, what is hard in your story, and how do you live in the tension of both? Because here at Hope Heals, we believe they coexist, that
Right.
those are not mutually exclusive, but they're paired in the Christian life.
Yeah. I think that this is another one that I'm like, "Oh, man, how many things can I pick?" But I'll pick
Right?
one.
I know.
But since we've been talking about disability, I'll stick on that theme, and I would say disability fits right in there. That has
Mm-hmm.
been something you said this at the beginning of the interview, actually, and I so resonated that you have seen how God prepared you your entire life. And when I look back over my life as well, I think to myself, I see little things that the Lord did, little interactions and many relationships that I had that I could have never predicted would end up where I have a daughter with disabilities, but that God prepared me for this. And yet, you and I both know in different ways that disability is really hard and that it is a difficult thing, but it's also this beautiful, good, incredible thing, and I'm so thankful that God has put this in my life and he has used it for my good, for his glory, for my family's good and his glory. And I can honestly say that I can look back and say, maybe it's not the actual disability in my daughter that I'm thankful for, but I'm thankful for the fruit of it. And I know that God has used that as an outpouring in our family's life and in our story. And I even think to myself, you and I might perhaps not even be talking if this wasn't part of my story.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, so those just kind of when you start to think about that, or this book that I wrote would never have been a thing and it couldn't have helped other people. And so I'm so thankful because I see God's fingerprints. And even though day to day, there's some really hard moments and there are some sad and painful things,
For
there's
sure.
also so much beauty that comes out of it, so much goodness. And I am really, really thankful to God for saying, hey, I'm going to use this for good.
I absolutely love that answer. That is beautiful, Laura. I've never had anyone basically say the disability is the good heart of my
Mm.
story. And I say that, I echo that sentiment times 1,000.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, 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 that's
Mm.
gold.
Yeah.
And what a blessing to say that out loud, Laura. So, thank you. I want to scream that out to all of our listeners who have disability in their story.
Yeah.
It is a good, hard gift, dare I say, gift
Yeah.
to our personhood.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Laura, what a blessing that
Mhm.
you have taken this time for this beautiful conversation. I am incredibly grateful. And now, with assurance, you must get to camp this summer.
I want
Um,
to. It's on the
I
list.
would absolutely love that. Iowa is not that far from Alabama.
It's
We're in
so
the
true.
modern world. Come
That's
on
right.
down. Come on down. We would absolutely love to have you. Laura, tell us how best to keep up with you.
Oh,
If
yes. LauraWifler.com is where you can find the links to all my stuff. And I mostly spend my time on Instagram. So find me there and it's at Laura Wifler.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. What a blessing this has been. And we definitely want to tune people to listen in to your Risen Motherhood Weekly podcast because it's amazing. And you are clearly full of wisdom and grace and insight and relatability. So I'm a big fan. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me right back at you. I'm
Oh,
so glad we could have this conversation, and this is a huge gift to me.
oh, well, be encouraged. You're an amazing human being. God bless you.
Thank you.